Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nika Melinda and a warm welcome to you. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my 5 tips on how you can optimize your project workflow inside of ClickUp. This is really ideal if you are finding that you've got the basics nailed in ClickUp, but you're not quite utilizing the other features, or you're not quite sure how they can best support your project workflows in ClickUp, whether that you are a team of one or whether it is actually for a wider team as well. If you're a project manager and you're trying to build out your ClickUp, hopefully this will give you some tips and ideas on how you can make it much more streamlined and efficient as well. For those of you who are new to my channel, definitely hit the subscribe button so you always get notifications when new videos come up. And if you are looking for some done for you support, I am a ClickUp expert and my agency works with creative small businesses, agencies and solopreneurs as well, and helping them get set up inside of ClickUp. You can click the link below in the description to book a call with me and we can talk more about your business needs. So now let's dive into today's video. So as I explained in this video today, we are going to walk through, or I'm going to show you how I use some of the features in ClickUp to really enhance my project management workflow. And so this is just a great way for you to really make project management much easier, managing the tasks of your team and just keeping track of what is actually going on inside of ClickUp. So the first thing that I want to share with you, the first tip that I want to share with you is making good use out of the task statuses. Now, every list inside of ClickUp has its own status that you can use and set up. So when you are looking at the statuses in your list, what you want to do is, I'll just expand this. Go to your list settings and you'll be able to see your list statuses just at the bottom here. So you see we've got automations, custom fields and list statuses. And if you click on list statuses, it will show you what statuses you have for that particular list. So definitely be strategic about what are the most common statuses that you will use within your team. And you can move these around. So in this area, we have a status that is called done, but it's in the active status. So we don't really need it to be there. We can pop it into the done status. And so you can see we've got 3 different levels within the list statuses. So active statuses are statuses where the task is active, it's open, it's either ready to use, someone is working on it, perhaps it's paused. And so we are using these different statuses here. Then we have also have some review statuses in place as well. So we've got a client review, we've got internal review, we've got statuses where we might have the task is paused or it's in progress, or some tasks are just ongoing. And so we have different statuses there. Done statuses are for the tasks that are not necessarily, you don't want to close them down, but you do want to mark them as completed or done for that particular part of the project. So we have a done status in there, and then complete just means that the task can be closed down altogether. So I'm going to hit save, as I did make a couple of tweaks while we were going through that. So the reason I encourage you to use your statuses and be smart about your statuses, don't go overboard, don't go to town. Some lists only have 2 statuses that I use in ClickUp. This one has a lot more. So it really is based on the needs of your project workflow. But you can also use your statuses to help you with automating parts of your project workflow as well. So that's the next area that I want to share with you. So we are going to have a look at my automations. At the moment, I have 3 automations inside of this particular list. So you can see there that I have at the top that when a start date arrives, then I change the status and add a comment. So this is where your list statuses can become quite key as a part of your process. So we've got a start date arrives. So within my list, and when I'm managing projects, I like to use the start and end date because it means that I can track the project or track the task based on whether it started or whether it's a due date. And that is quite a useful feature to make use out of. So now I can change the status, and I'm selecting the status to start. So if I select this drop down, actually I can choose which status I want that task to sit in. So when the start date arrives, because the start date is applied, it should be ready to start. And you should have some best practices in your project management process in terms of when you apply a task, when you create a task and you assign it to someone and set dates, it should have all the information in there for that person who can start the work. So then I'm also going to add a comment that just says that this task is ready to start, and that just applies a notification to the person who that task is assigned to, and it just lets them know that they can start the work on this particular task. Now, this is great, especially if that task goes over a period of time. Perhaps it's a week-long task that they need to work on. It just gives them a nudge so that they can start to work on it when it's needed. So you can also make use of the automations to move tasks, apply comments, set the priorities on your task, also update the statuses as well. You can reassign your team members. So these are great elements that you can automate within your process. Saves a lot of time, and it saves a lot of brain power in you having to think, what do I need to do next? So another automation that I love to use is actually when it goes into a review, a status, then it can change the assignee. So in this particular automation that we have is that when a status changes, and it changes from any of the active statuses, but it goes into one of the reviews, so client review or internal reviews, it actually assigns that task to me, and it changes the due date so that there are 2 days. So that gives us 2 days for us to do that review and then go back and either mark it as complete or say that there is still some additional edits that need to be done and apply feedback on that task. So that is another way that really helps to speed up the project management workflow in my business. So another element that I want to share with you is making correct use of the subtasks and checklist within your tasks and your projects. So as you can see, we've got a task here that has 2 subtasks applied. Now, the difference between subtasks and checklists is that subtasks come with assignees, so they are tasks that need to take place, they are action based, versus checklists, which are more process based, so they are more the process steps that need to be taken for that task to be completed. So in this particular task, we have 2 subtasks. So we have the overall task, which is to automate a client feedback process, and then the subtask, there are 2 stages of completing that task. So we need to review the current feedback process, so we need to audit the systems and what's actually happening. Then we need to actually automate it, so implement the changes. So these are subtasks, and they will open up within their own task card. I can apply it to different team members. I can add in different steps. So you can see that we have a couple of steps in place as that task is being created. And then down below under subtasks, you then have the option to look at checklists. So I can add a checklist to say, add in some additional steps. So I might put review feedback form. And review feedback emails. So that's come out in capital letters, but you can get the idea of what we're doing here. So these are just steps. Now you can assign your checklist items to a person, but what you can't do is actually assign a due date to that particular checklist. So you've got some options here. You can rename it, you can assign it, you can delete it, but you can't assign a actual due date. Whereas for the subtask, you can actually do that. You can assign a lot more options to the subtask. So that's the difference. So definitely making sure you're using those 2 elements correctly can really, really help your process. And the next element that I also like to use within projects, and it's not all the time, but it is definitely a relationship-based feature, and that is using task dependencies. So I'm going to switch over to another list and share with you exactly how we do that. Okay, so this is a template project plan that I have in place, and this is based on the projects that we run when we do implementation setups for our clients. So you can see here that we have actually grouped our tasks based on the time frame, so week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and so on. And we're using the custom fields to help us to manage. So we've got the time frame, the stage, we've got different stages, and these are just drop-down fields that we're using. So we've got different stages of the project, which is like the strategy stage, implementation, automation, documentation, training, migration, and launch. And then we have the different platforms. So what we'll be incorporating, whether it's Dubsado, ClickUp, both, or it's not necessarily a platform specific task. And so then we have all of the tasks for our project in this area, as well as the status. So a couple of features here that we are doing is we are utilizing the grouping feature. So we're really helping us to organize how the tasks are sitting in the project plan. We're using this to manipulate the views. You can also go a step further and start to filter out views. So it could be that if you have different team members working on different parts of the project, maybe they don't need to see what's happening in week 4, for example. So I could add a filter on to take off any tasks that have the status of week 4. So I could say where the time frame is perhaps not week 4. So just as an example. And it will just remove that from view. The thing with the drop downs is that you can only select one drop down, but you can add different filters, so that can really customize the views as well. So I like to utilize these elements, and you can also switch off the filters if they are no longer relevant for how you want to view your projects. But I find this to be really, really useful. And another area is with the custom fields, you can add in lots of different stages. So not just drop down fields, but you can add in text fields, you can add in additional dates. Perhaps you might label if it's to do with a particular project. Maybe it's there's different labels you want to use in there. You can also add in progress bars as well. So if you are utilizing checklists or subtasks within your project plan, then these are great features that you can utilize inside of your tasks as well. And what you can also do is, if you are a Trello user, or if you're a fan of the Kanban board, I definitely recommend implementing that into your project workflow in some way. So the Kanban board is just literally the board view inside of ClickUp. So at the top here, we have all the different views here, and you can see that this is customized. So we are actually seeing custom fields on the task cards themselves, but we can also start to move our tasks through the workflow itself. So we might want to change this up. So we might actually change the way that the tasks are grouped. It could be based on the stage, for example. So that might be a good one for us to see, well, what tasks are still in the automation stage, what tasks do we have in the documentation stage, and again, you can really customize how you like to see the cards. So if you want to add more custom field information, we've got 3 ticked at the moment, but you might not necessarily want to see all of that information. You might actually switch off what's not relevant. So if you're already customizing your task based on the stage, then maybe you don't need to see the stage, but you might want to see the time frame to know what week time frame that would be. Or perhaps you want to know, well, actually who's assigned to this task. You can have the show assignees on this as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can view the Kanban board, but this is a great feature for you to also move cards through an active workflow. So if you are also using statuses such as to do, in progress, or done statuses, then you can actually have that in place on your Kanban board view as well. And so just going back to the list view, one last example before we wrap up today's video is I want to show you how you can utilize dependencies inside of your project workflow to make it much more efficient. In this scenario, we have different stages for our particular tasks. So as an example, if I want to go to the automation stage, we do have a task where it's testing the workflows. Well, we cannot test the workflows until the workflows are actually built. So I might actually put a dependency in place in this particular stage. So if I open up test workflows, and I'm going to go to the 3 dots at the top here. And what I'm going to do is click on relationships. So this is now going to help me start to build out relationships between the different tasks. So I'm going to select dependencies. Now we've got 3 different options. So we can have a dependency where that task is waiting on. So this is waiting on other tasks to be completed before we move forward. Or this can be a task that will block other tasks from actually doing the work. In this scenario, what I want to do is this task cannot be started until the other tasks are completed. So we're actually waiting on other tasks to be completed. So I'm going to add waiting on this task, and I'm going to say we can do a quick search. So onboarding workflow. So I can see that the status is here. It's going to pull up the task that is attached to that list as at the top. So if you're wondering how do you know you've got the correct task, it's just going to pull up what task that is. I'm also going to pull in intake workflow. I believe I've called it. Yep. There we go. So now what you'll see is that it's added to this task. It's added a little symbol here at the top where we are waiting on 2 tasks to be completed. Testing workflows now cannot be started until these 2 tasks are actually completed. So this just helps me to manage that workflow. So if I'm assigning this task to other people in my team, it means that they cannot start the work until those tasks are completed. So inside of the custom fields, I could also pull up any dependencies and put those on the project plan as well. So we can see, well, what dependencies are there that are inside of this project so that the other team members are aware. But you do have this small symbol, the waiting on. So this is waiting on these tasks, and this is blocking. So you've got a waiting dependency and a blocking dependency. And so that's another great feature that I love to use, especially if you have a few people or maybe 1 or 2 people on a project. You don't want certain piece of work being done before something else is completed. You can add that in. And so that is it, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. I really hope you found the content to be valuable. If so, definitely drop a comment below. If you've got questions as well, you can drop a comment below and I can answer those for you. Hit like and subscribe if you do enjoy this content, and I will see you next time in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.